All right. So, big one. Last day before break, and like I was assigning my other classes in critical listening people have to watch a bunch of movies and TV over break for their homework. Your guys' homework is to play a lot of video games, and yeah, play video games. That's what your job is for over break. So I need you to sit down and crank on that, and of course listen to stuff. Um, so yeah, what we're gonna do today is hammer on like talk about audio in Wise a little bit, or sorry, about audio in Unreal a little bit. God, this has been a real problem. Like when we talk, like I throw the wrong names out a lot. Uh, Moving a little too fast on the naming, but so we're gonna do Unreal and Wise today, and not just out Unreal, basically in audio a little bit today. So, but first impressions. Has anybody gone through the stuff? Like we ended up stopping early last class, so you can go through and work on some of the Unreal stuff. What do you think? Been working on
I
Unreal?
started I kind of just sat down yesterday, got a head start on those lessons and got through them. Um, and I think the lessons are cool, but my laptop is just like filled up with things at this point, so it's like kind of barely chugging along. I think the one
Unreal's
thing,
a beast. Like it doesn't run on my laptop. Like I can only run it on my desktop. So yeah, I try doing exactly the same thing. And it's huge, right? It takes up so much space. It,
yeah, but in terms of like the interface and stuff, I think it makes sense, but like moving around in your scene is like different from like Unity, which I really got used to. Like I'm talking about like actually like rotating the camera and things like that. So I was just like kept getting tripped up with that.
yep. It's like, moving between Mac and PC or something like that. It's like, oh, like, the commands are there, but they're done a little bit differently. Yeah. Um, cool. Well, I think like the truth is like regarding this section, just to get the assignment done, you literally could just watch the videos and answer the questions. You probably wouldn't even need to actually go through and actually do it. That's the cheater method. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying, but you're not going to learn anything if you do it that way. But if you actually go through and do it, I think you'll find that it's pretty cool. But yes, there are some hurdles to get over, and there's things like if you're on an old Mac, you can't be on a really really old Mac. It just doesn't work. They like you have to be a 20 was it 2013 or newer on a Mac, which is still pretty old. But I have a 2011 Mac as well as a 2013, and the 2013 just it's a dog. It barely runs, and the reason being is that um, just as a little side bit of trivia here, when we're working in well both in Unity and with Unreal, you have the graphics engines that run in the background. And if you recall, if you play a lot of games, you'll see that thing that shows up a lot with like DirectX 11, DirectX, like DirectX essentially. So DirectX is basically a way to talk to your video card, and it's a way that it sets up like the 3D environment inside of your. It's a set of sets of communication to your video card to set up the 3D world. And it can be done in a number of different ways. There's things like DirectX, then there's OpenGL, and in the Mac world, it's called Metal. You don't hear about that one very often, but Metal was introduced in 2013 on, and it's basically like the framework for the graphics. And so uh, Unreal can only work in Metal if you're on a Mac. When we're on Unity, it can work in OpenGL. And if you're on Windows, it uses DirectX. And if you see in the top, like of your, well, especially in Unity, it'll say DirectX if you're on Windows, and it'll say OpenGL if you're on Mac. So OpenGL is cross-platform. It's across both Mac and PC, but it's not quite as fast as DirectX. But it runs on Mac, Windows, Linux, everything. And so it's OpenGL is the most universal, but it's not quite the fastest. OpenGL 3 is what's out, I think, right now. And I think it's pretty amazing because I play around with it with Max stuff, but I think it's pretty amazing. But when you're in Unreal, you have to use either Metal or DirectX. You can't use OpenGL. And therefore, you have to be on a relatively, well, when I say relatively new, we had to upgrade the entire computer lab. So those computers that were in the computer lab were because of last year in this class, we got to this point and we were like, dude, we can't even run any of the class. We couldn't even run Unreal on any machine. They're all just too slow because those machines in the computer lab were like ancient. So So I learned a lot on that one, but just as kind of a little bit of understanding on how the graphics engines work a little bit. And that's just a tip of the iceberg on how that stuff works. It gets way bigger than that and stuff that I don't really understand. So, but yeah, so Unreal's a bit of a dog, like in terms of installation and footprint and just like flow, it's a bit of a hog on your system. But on the flip side, it uses C++, so it is way faster. Actually, well, not I want to say way faster. It can be significantly faster than say something done in Unity. But for most of the stuff that we do, it doesn't make any difference because Unreal uses C++ and Unity uses C sharp. And I'm not entirely sure. I know the differences between the languages, but I'm not entirely sure of like frame rates and, well, not frame rates, but we'll say how performant each one of them are. But yeah, it's a bit of a dog when you're working with this stuff. So I'm working on a pretty fast PC right now, and it's been nice. And actually, I just added another 512 gigabytes of storage for this because I used a lot of space on this thing. So okay, let's talk. So what I want to do today though is just kind of reiterate that with the plan. So the plan today is to go through the audio system with Unreal, which I think is amazing. I barely understand it, but it's amazing. I think the things that like all the things that we got bogged down with in Unity with the like the scripting stuff, that like all the code stuff, that because most of us aren't really haven't coded that much. I think if you dig in and you spend some time learning some C sharp, it'll get better. And that's kind of one of my queue list of things to do. But I would really like to get in and get a lot better with the C sharp. But the cool thing is with Unreal is you don't need to do any of that kind of stuff. You can if you want to with C++, but most of it's going to be done with what's called blueprints. So today we're going to look at the audio system just up and running, look at the basic audio system blueprints, and then also look at how to do the WWISE integration in a nutshell. So and this is more of, if anything, just to expose you to it so you can see it and go, oh, wow, that's really cool. So, well, that's what I'm hoping you say, is that you're like, damn, all the things that I didn't like about doing some of the scripting in Unity are pretty easily taken care of in Unreal to an extent. I still don't know the node-based system very well, but I can at least kind of muddle my way through some of it. So let's do it. All right. So let's share my computer. Ugh. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up. I'll just run through the whole process very quickly. So let's create a new project. I'm going to call it WWISE class. Let's call it Unreal Audio 1 or something. I can do it as a first or a third person, but I'll do it as a first. I'm a little concerned. My computer is acting like it's hanging on stuff. I'm hoping I don't freeze up. Something is being funny in the background. Yeah, we'll call it class, meaning it's done for class. Class is a bad name though, because class is like a C++ thing. Okay, so just make sure that's working. Cool, we're good to go. Now, when we look at how audio works, we obviously have some audio playing in there. If we want to make some audio run in the scene, this is something I'm a little fuzzy on. I'm not entirely sure. I'm better at working with WWISE than this, so I'm just going to do a little bit of experimentation with this one. So if I wanted to say make sound come from something like this, what I can do is let me pull my. Sorry, I got to move some of my windows around here. Gotta find the chat. Okay. What we can do is we can add a blueprint script to this thing. So when we were doing it before, we could add a script. Either when we were going to add components in Unity, we can either add it just as a pre-built component, or we can we could write our own custom scripts. And we could do something similar here, but we can do with this with Blueprint. And if you recall, if you maybe as I was going through it, you saw when I started the game, it said, or when I was building it out, it said I can choose Blueprint. I can also choose C++, but I decided I wanted to do Blueprint. And Blueprint is a way we can do this. So say add Blueprint, and it's going to add a new subclass. So basically, it's going to add a class that goes inside of this object right here. And we end up with this. This is kind of like the prefab. It doesn't have quite an equivalent in Unity, but it's basically like the prefab editor here. So what it is, we can look at the visual thing here, but that's not what we care about. We care about this event graph. And this event graph is how we actually do things. And so if we look at this here, it says event begin play and event tick. These two things right here, event begin play, it means it's going to, like it's the equivalent of of the C sharp, like the start function. So this triggers, basically says execute right there. It sends out a bang. It says go do this when this object is spawned, which is usually at the beginning of this, at the beginning of the level. Or we could say this is on every single frame. Every single tick is every single frame. I want you to execute this thing. So if you're monitoring like the position of it, or its rotation, or some properties of it, you can monitor that here and control it from here. So on this case here, if we wanted to just say attach some sort of sound. So like, let me, let's actually add, well, okay, let's just add a sound in here. So what it's gonna do is, if we scroll through this, these are all the kind of like the capabilities that we have to work with. So in here, I'm gonna do some audio. Like if we just do audio, if we can activate reverb, I barely understand it, but the thing is, one of the things I found working with Unreal, this is more from last semester, but is that you can do, I feel like you could do a lot more with Unreal audio, the in-house, the built-in audio, than you can with over in Unity. I feel, well, the mixer in Unity is way better, but the audio workflow in Unreal, I think, is a lot better. But because it also comes with things like convolution reverb, um, like built-in, like solid ambisonic decoding and 3D audio type stuff, which I think is pretty cool. But let's just play let's play a 2D sound. And like what I want to choose, like this is the sounds that are already in here. So let's just do, what do we have in here? Starter music one. Sure. And that's just going to play a two-dimensional sound out of there. So let's save it. So you have to compile it here. When you compile it, it saves it, and we can close it out. And let's just see if it works. Cool. So what it did is, so it's playing a 2D sound, which means, of course, that even though I attach it to this object over here, there's no, like, even if I, well, let's see if I run around. Are you hearing that, by the way? Are you hearing sound? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Cool. Sometimes I forget to hit the little share sound button. So basically, it allows us to just play that. So I probably shouldn't attach it to actually that object itself. And crap, I should have marked it. It was this one, right? I think it was that one. That's one I edit. Yeah, edit blueprint. So what I can't figure out, and like that's for playing a 2D sound, where you imagine there's a 3D sound for this thing. And so I can't seem to find the sound for this one though. Like I was like, okay, well, let's play an audio. And so they have play sound, but it's just play sound at location, which would be, well, it's giving me the location here. So if I choose the music that we wanted right there, play sound, what was that? Music, starter music, sure. What it's doing is it's giving it a location right here. What I want to do is tell, well, I don't think it'll allow me to do it with this one. Yeah, so what I want it to do is I want it to get the position of the object. So basically you have to tell it, like what I want to ask it to do, and I just don't know what the function to call for it is basically tell it to, I want you to find out where my location is, the location that this object is, and that's where I want you to play the sound from. But unfortunately, I don't know how to tell it.
On the other screen, can you click on the object? Will it tell you what its location is?
This one, well, oh, you mean just like on this one over here? Yeah, so for like, I guess we could copy my location here. Let me copy it. So it's like whatever, wow, 8:39. Okay.
Probably like not the most efficient way to do it, but
Yeah, let's just like, because let's try, you're right. Let's try and copy that. Let's go back here. Is that 8:43? We just have to be close. Wow, 11:69. Nice. This thing is huge. Cool. Let's try that. Okay, so it plays there. Let's play the game. So I don't know exactly how to pull that one off yet. That's something that was like I was trying to figure out like late last night. And I was like, well, I want to spend more of my time focusing on Wise for a little bit. But I do think that's something that's in there. And if you saw that, there's so many cool like possibilities of how to manipulate the sound. But I love this node-based blueprint, how Blueprint works. Um, and I barely understand the tip of the iceberg on it. So I'm going to get rid of that sound right now because what I want to do is integrate Wise. And like what I imagine that will happen, and depending on how you approach other indie studios, they may or may not be willing to add more middleware into their project. People kind of get a little bit, I won't say sketched out. They just don't love signing up for something they don't understand. So if you're working with a developer and they probably have heard of Wise, and like they, just because it's so ubiquitous, but all when you propose to somebody that you want to use some middleware, all they see is it's going to cost them money. And so they tend to be pretty resistant to adding extra stuff in there. They're like, well, why can't you just do it in Unreal? But the thing is, it's just, you possibly could. And like just like with Unity, you could, all the things that we do in Wise you can do in Unity. You just have to program it, and it's a major pain in the ass. And so it's so, but there is merit to, especially if it's a small, like whatever game you're going to play on a mobile device. If somebody wants to make a mobile game, they don't want to add on a bunch of extra like stuff like to their project. So to them, they see it like as adding bulk, as adding resources, as adding stuff to their project that unnecessarily, especially if it's a small game. So you may be called upon to do everything, especially, and if it's a really small game, it may be possible to do everything you want to do, like a small two-dimensional puzzle game, like whatever, some of those like mobile bubble, popping games or puzzle games. Those could probably pretty easily be done inside of Unreal or Unity without the use of Wise. And so you may be called upon to do it. So I think it is worth learning the audio systems in here, but it is, I'm not there yet. And it's a bit of a challenge. So I'm gonna stick with Wise because that's what we know, and that's what we're pretty good at. Although Fmod works just as well with Unreal as well. On that note, like I don't know if you, like, in terms of like going beyond this class and getting involved with the scene and getting involved with more projects, it's a little hard right now because the way COVID is going. But there's a lot of opportunity, things like I don't know if you guys ever hang out on meetup.com, but I used to have a pretty big profile on meetup.com. I just dropped it, but for Signal Noise. But meetup.com, if you've not ever used it before, is basically a way for people to meet in real life around certain subjects. And there's I think it's Colorado Independent Game Developers. It's actually, I just pull it up. I get the notices a lot, like just because I'm still on this and login. So Colorado Independent Game Developers Association, SIGDA, right here. So this is actually today. So if you want to go today, it's an online event. But this Colorado Independent Game Developers Association is a really good way to get involved in the scene. These people, they meet a lot. So I know Brian pretty well. Actually, I met him through some other avenues. He came to Signal Noise a few times. So good dude. But they basically, looks like these guys are, is it just guys? Of course, it's just dudes. Are meeting up, and it looks like it's going to be an online event for this week. But they actually do meet up in real life when it's not COVID. And they usually meet up like at a bar or at, some sort of brewery or something like that. And sometimes they just do these meetups where you just meet up and people get together and talk about projects. So I've been to quite a few of these things, and you can find a lot of work. I mean, it's not paid work. This is for fun. Most of these are people that are indie developers just making stuff at home. But it's an avenue in to work on some real projects and to get some feet, you get your feet underneath you. And so these people are really good. That's the most active one around. But there is another one. So this is Colorado. What is it? This is Colorado Independent Game Developers Association. But there's also like Colorado Game Developers Association. There's another one that's not independent. And the other one, they used to have these ones a while back, but you'd go to them and it'd just be all people wanting work, and there no actual like developers would show up. Let's see if there's anything else coming up. But if you're not playing on meetup.com, it's pretty rad. There's like tons of different things to go find people with like-minded interests. So anyway, that's a way to get involved in the scene a little bit more. And like I said, I've gone to quite a few of those, and they're pretty rad. These people are legit. They're making pretty sweet games. Okay, so we've got our project. We've got our project built, and I'm gonna get rid of that sound that we had in there because I don't want it to play. Save it. I don't know. And let's what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna close this down. I'm gonna do some WWISE integration on this thing. So save selected. And let's integrate WWISE into this thing. So we see now here, these are ones I've worked on in the last couple days. WWISE 1, WWISE 2, Unreal Audio Class. I want to integrate WWISE into this one right here. So let's I don't want to do any plugins or anything like that, just integrate it. So just like with Unity, one of the cool things with this is when it creates your WWISE project, it puts it inside of the folder of the game. So when you do your generate your sound banks, you don't have to map them or put them in any kind of custom location. It just the system takes care of all of that for you. What I don't quite know is if I need to, well, I'll explain in a minute. Cool. That was actually pretty quick. So now we can, let's actually I want to create, we could open up both, but I'm just going to create my WWISE session. And I'm going to add some sound. Oops, I did Unreal Audio Class. Let's just add some stuff in here so I have some sounds just to work with. So let's do an ambient sound first, just as a test. Like let's add a file. So this is, let's go to my storage. Wait, where is that? No, it's on Merkle Video. Sound effects libraries. This is the one that, again, I can't stress this enough. This one right here, the Sonus, that's the one that I had the link for on the modules page. Like, if nothing else, get this one right here. It's 30 gigs of sound effects, and there's a lot of good sound effects in there. So I'm just going to use those ones just since we have them here. Let's do, so this is awesome. I don't know, because like if you've ever done any horror or battle sounds or anything like Vegicide. So Vegicide is like how you make guts sounds. Like crushing vegetables is how you make like disgusting squishy sounds, like tearing. Like if you want to like whatever, like tearing a monster's tearing a human or other animal apart, you use this squishes oranges. If you're like whatever, step in something gross or something like that. So these are really cool. Like if they're also really fun to go do. If you've never done any recording of that, it's fun to do that, but that's not what we're looking for. I want some sort of background, like long one. Fun monsters, interesting. Russell tones. Let's do some ambience. Let's do bridge pathway, sure. Actually, let's do a couple of these just so we have some choice. And so let's just give them a listen. Yep, so it's in stereo. We should probably go down to mono, but that's okay for now. It's also super, super, super long. So on these, because they're so long, we don't want to load those into RAM, so I would just turn those to streams. And same thing on that one. Stream that one. Cool. I'll change this to Windows. Okay. What else we need to do? We need to make some vents. Vents. make an ambience one here. And let's start with just crossing. Oops. Play. Cool. And let's add it to our sound bank, which we need to make a sound bank. Let's call it main. And we will add our ambience to main. Save it. Generate all. Wow, that's taking forever. How long is that crossing street? That one must be super, super long.
Must be a very busy street.
Yeah. Like, I guess it didn't convert this one because we're not actually using it yet. So, but actually, I'm going to take a look at how big is this one? Yeah, both of them are about 3 minutes. So that's pretty long, but that's okay if they're streaming. It doesn't really matter. Cool. Let's just start with that. I'm going to leave that up because what we want to do is now look over in, I can do it from the launcher, but I can also just do it from here. I like to do it from here because it makes sure that I'm opening the right one that's connected with this thing. So open Unreal. Cool. So that's, if you hear that little chirpy thing, you'll get used to hearing that little chirp. I just heard a notification for something. But now if we look at this thing, let me close this out so we can start from fresh. I'll close this out too. So we'll start fresh with everything. So what we want to look at is how we actually start integrating this in. So if we go into our window right here, we now have this, so we see this thing called WWISE Picker and this WAPI Picker. WWISE Picker is an old version. They don't like it's. I don't know why it's still there. I don't know why it's still on. Like maybe because I use this machine with the old versions of this. When they switched to Unreal 4.2.4, I think is where it started. 4.24, and then also with WWISE 2019 point. What am I on right now? 2019.1. No, I'm on 2019.2. But when they switched to 2019 point, well, I think it was when they switched to 2019, they changed the way this works. And so a lot of the videos that you'll look at, tutorial videos, they work a little bit different than so this is, I had to watch it like back in the day. I watched a bunch of videos and I found that they didn't work quite the same way. So I had to kind of muddle my way through and figure this out. But the cool thing is they used to have this thing called WAPI, or the WWISE Picker, and it worked okay, but it was kind of funky and it didn't work that well. Then they came up with this, what WAPI Picker means is WWISE Audio API. API is just is a way of communicating, and it's become much more robust in the last year or so. So if I click on my WAPI Picker, it's not showing up yet. Sometimes you have to, it's really weird. I'm not seeing my components yet, which is strange. I'm not seeing my WWISE integration stuff here yet. Sorry, I'm trying to this shouldn't look like this. I'm still a little fuzzy on some of these things, but I need to get to my content, WWISE audio. So we see our sound banks, cool. We see our events, cool. So I see my event right there. So back in the day, you didn't have the means of doing this. So I guess I get it now. I had it set wrong because I was looking at I was in my top directory. I'm still not used to the directory structure of this one quite as much. But if I go to my WWISE audio and I have what's cool is that I see my this is called init sound bank. Basically, it's saying initializing sound. It's a sound bank initializer, and then inside of it, I have my events. And so what this shows is that it's already connected between WWISE and Unreal. So if I want to attach this, so this is basically an event right here. If I want to bring that as an event, we can just drag this in, and I could attach this to some other objects if I wanted to. But right now, I'm just going to see if I can just get this thing to play out of the gates. And so, yeah, so we just basically have the ability to, but I'm trying to get my WWISE API to show up. It's supposed to, oh, I need to add a bank too. So if I want to add a sound bank. And so I'm going to add, where is my Audio Kinetic sound bank? And this is weird, but I called it main. So I want to load in this, they call it scenes, or sorry, they call them levels in Unreal. In Unity, they call them scenes. So I want this to load the main bank when it loads here. You can do this dynamically as well by basically an object calling the bank dynamically, but we're just going to keep it simple and say, I just want you to load the main bank out of the gates here. And if I go back into my events here, and I double click on the event, I can say the required bank. I can assign it to this bank. I'm not entirely sure if this has to happen. I was doing some experimenting. Actually, let's try it without it first and see if it works without first. Because I don't know that it actually has to load this, because basically you're having to rebuild your entire WWISE structure inside of Unreal, which seems a little bit strange to me. But well, let's just see if this thing works. Okay, it's not working yet. But what we want it to do is just play this thing. So so what we want it to do, so it's got the event there, but we don't, it doesn't tell what to do. So I want to go to the blueprint, select, and what I want it to do is on this one, I want event begin play, like on the beginning here, I want it to actually, it's not telling WWISE what it wants to do. So what we want to do is we want to say post, post event right here. So in WWISE speak, we say we post events. Posting event is meaning triggering whatever happens over in WWISE. So we like under this Audio Kinetic actor. So if I just get rid of this, we can see where it is. And it is right here. Audio Kinetic actor, post event. So you could post trigger, you could do to an event here. You can set switch. So basically I could set the switch state in Unreal, sorry, in WWISE, but we want to just post event. This is going to be like the most common one. And we're going to say, okay, well, what do we want to, where do we want this, like, who do we want to be, where do we want this event to be come from? And we want to say self, because basically we want it to come from itself. And yeah, that's all we, oh, then the asset is I want it to play ambience. Cool. Save, compile it, close it, see if it's working. Not yet. Basically what I need to do is I need to generate the sound bank. I can do it under here if it doesn't show up. Let's try it, see if it's showing up over here yet. Bastard, it's not working yet. It's not connecting the, my API isn't connecting right there. So what I can do is over here under generate sound data. Oh crap, not that one. Hit build, generate sound data. And basically I can generate my sound banks from within Unreal. Oh, that's what, something's wrong there.
I think I might have saw something when you were in WWISE. I don't know. If you
What did I do?
I don't know if you need to have those like your main checked on the, like the sound banks, but I don't know if you did.
Oh well, yeah.
Does that matter?
So I just hit generate all. So you like if you hit generate all, you don't need to have these selected.
Oh, because
So
then it just does it.
it does it anyway. Yeah. But if like there's times like this one takes a while. Like if you're doing a big game, it takes forever to do every single platform. So you could say I'll only do like these parts of it. So you don't need to generate all the sound banks all the time, because like even this takes a little bit of time right there. I saw something show up there just a second ago. I don't know if you saw it. Basically, I didn't read the dialogue because I was moving too fast, but it said something about some external connection. So it might have just remedied itself by saying allow this external connection right here. So let's try this one more time. So yeah, I like leaving that my output log up here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So the picker, it couldn't do anything because it had another window open. That's why the WAPI wasn't working there. Cool. So this should work now, please. Yay. So now we can see that in my WWISE API picker. So I usually attach it down here. You can also attach it to one of these other windows here. But now I hit generate sound data. Yay. When you hear that little chirpy thing, that means you're in good shape. It just means that I hadn't connected between the two of those. Here we are.
Wait, so what was the issue?
There was a dialog box open on WWISE that basically it couldn't talk to WWISE because there was a dialog box open that I just needed to say yes over on WWISE to close that box, and then it could initiate the connection right there. So it was just basically, it was being blocked because WWISE was frozen until I hit yes on that thing. So kind of a weird hang up, but it does, like, what I found, like when I've done this in the past with just trial and error type stuff, what I would do is I was basically, so the way I would build it is I would start with my Unreal project, and whether it's something that's been a client project or just something you've got, and I've not done any client projects with Unreal before, but I build the project, close it, open up WWISE, integrate it into WWISE, or build a WWISE project out, just a WWISE project, then integrate the two of them together, and then open them both back up after they've been closed down. And if I had closed them both down and opened back up, then it would have been fine. But for some reason, I don't know what that box was. I closed it too quick, so I wasn't watching. There was some sort of dialog box open in WWISE that stopped me from doing that. So what we have now is basically this. There it is right there. This little object right here. It would seem that it's supposed to be coming from that, but it's actually coming from everywhere because it's a two-dimensional sound right now. So we didn't actually set this to be a three-dimensional sound. So that's what we want to look at kind of next, is how to set this thing up as a three-dimensional sound. And so I'll go a little bit slower through this to make it a little more clear what we're trying to do. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this one right here. I can just hit edit, delete, or I can just hit the delete button. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new object and attach it. So what I wanna do at this point is I wanna create a three-dimensional sound, so that basically the sound is coming from the specific object over here. And maybe we should find some other kind of interesting sound to go with that. But let's just add a cube here real quick first. And I was modifying, so when we talk about prefabs in Unity, basically where you modify the original and it changes all the rest from there out, I accidentally changed the original prefab for my objects here. So if I add a sphere, everything is bright pink. So because I changed the material color on this thing by default. So it's kind of annoying. Where's my color scheme? Yeah, so if I wanted to go through and change the color on this thing, I could go back and make it like, let's go green instead. Okay, save. Something's wrong with my computer right now. It's like things are moving slow. So I have a green cube right here, and I want this to be my sound source. So I'm going to attach a sound to this thing. So I'm going to edit the blueprint on this cube right here. So the blueprint is basically adding a script. So there is no script on it right now. So blueprint, add script. And so what I'm doing right here is I'm creating a script that I'm attaching to this cube, but that script, as it does in Unity, it doesn't live inside this cube. It lives outside of the cube, and you can attach it to multiple objects. So I'm just going to say this new subclass, but I can attach it to other ones. I just want to make that clear that basically when I'm editing this, it's not saying it's editing it on this particular cube. It's editing it, and we're applying it to this cube. And so that's what's happening right here. So I've got well, you can actually do some of your animation. So like this is where you're going to be controlling some of your animation stuff in different states. So you'll have your different like animation states over here. But I don't really understand that stuff very well. All I care about is the blueprint stuff here. So what we want to do is we want to create, again, the sound to come from this object over here. So it's essentially the same thing we just did. In fact, it's exactly the same thing we just did. But we need to change our 3D states up inside of WWISE. So let's go back in here, and we want to post the event from WWISE. So you can either go through and find it in the audio kinetic stuff. It's just to show where it is again. It's audio kinetic, actor, post event. And we want to say, where do we want this to be attached to? And it seems kind of weird, but like I had the ability to attach this sound, even though the script is being run from that green cube. I could say I want the sound to play from another thing. So like if it were like, if I run into this cube, I want this door sound to open up over here. You could do something like that if you want to. But in this case, we want the sound, the emitter, to come from this actual object itself. So that way we'll say self on this one right here. And that basically says, I want to be the self is, I want the sound to come from this position where we are. And let's add, I only have ambience right now, but let's go add, let's save this and make sure that at least works by itself. Cool. Now what we want to do is let's go over to WWISE. Let's change that sound out. It's called ambience. Let's add another. Let's just get another cool sound effect going in there. Let's get some sort of, I don't know. Let's find something else. Let's go like, let's see. Cool dry ice library. That'd be cool. I want just some like creaks or something that's like something that makes some sort of sound, like drones. Let's do a drone. This thing to be, yeah, this is cool. I don't know preview wise, but let's just add it. Change the name. Why is, do you need to just crash on me? Sorry, Unreal. Yeah, it did. Just crash on me, but that's okay. Let's add a new event. Let's go through and listen to it. That's perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. So I want that drone to come from that cube over there. Make it ominous and creepy. Hopefully, oh man, I have to rebuild it. That sucks. Cool. Didn't save. So now it's showing drone here. And actor, I want that to be self. Cool. So that drone, just by virtue of being connected, I'll show what I'm talking about. By the fact that that it shows up. So here's my WWISE API picker. So you can just see that this is the WWISE API picker. It's a connection between WWISE and Unreal. And so if it shows up in here, meaning if I save everything, wait a minute. Oh, so this probably won't work because I have not yet assigned this to the master bank or to the main bank. If it does work, that confuses me because, oops, I don't want that. Oh man, there we go. So I didn't even add the bank. So this is strange to me. I'm trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. Basically, I'm confused because I didn't initialize the bank. It just existed. In fact, even in my events here, I didn't assign this to main. So it's basically able to play the events without loading the banks, which is strange to me. I don't quite understand that. Because the way you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to load a bank, and the bank contains all the sounds. And so the way you're typically supposed to do this is you're supposed to add a bank called main. And then in your events are supposed to be associated with main. Like basically what I'm doing is I'm rebuilding the same structure that I had over in WWISE, but it seems to be just working, which is strange to me. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but I'm going to go with it, and I need to do some more experimentation with this thing. So now let's just make sure that this is going to work. Let's see if it's going to pull. Oh, I didn't assign it to the bank over here. So I could save, generate all. And I believe what's happening when I hit generate all right there, it's doing the same thing as when I'm over here in my WWISE API picker. I can say generate sound data, or I can also do that from up here under build, generate sound data, and it pulls up the same thing. I can just do it right here, hit generate sound data. So it says Mac, Windows, US English. So this is basically, it's generating my sound banks from here. And I get that sound. And you can see it in your log. Like if you're getting errors, let me close that out. I'll hit it generate again. The way I found that, generate, you can hit this little show output log while it's showing up there before that goes away. And for me, usually it'll show up like this, like just as a pop out window. So I just drag it up here so I can always keep an eye on it. It gives you it gives you a pretty good troubleshooting area to see what's going on, what's wrong with this sort of thing. Cool. Okay, so at this point, let's see if it plays. I did not. I screwed something up. Think about that. I think, what did I screw up there? Ambience drone. Save main. So it seems like it should have worked. So one thing you can kind of do to troubleshoot is if you're in here. Drone. I'm not hearing it. I switch to stop. I switch to ambience. There's something wrong there. If my output log shows anything. I wonder if that's an old one. Let me clear this out. Clear log. Let's try this again. Go build it out. My WAPI generate sounded generate. Okay, make sure it's good. Okay, so it seems like it should be working now. Okay, maybe I just needed to generate the sound data again. That was strange. Let me go back in to my cube. Let's change this to drone. I guess I just needed to generate the sound data again. I should hook that up to a shortcut key so I don't have to go into that WWISE API picker every single time. So now it seems to be working. I guess I just need to rebuild the data. Sorry, I'm hopping back and forth while I'm trying to troubleshoot, but I know that's a little bit confusing. So now if I press play, it should play. But it's still a two-dimensional sound. So what we need to do is inside of WWISE, we need to turn that into a three-dimensional sound. So let's go over into WWISE and turn that drone into a three-dimensional sound. Oops, let's go to F5. A drone, and basically under our positioning, if you recall, basically it's not defined. The 3D or 2D position is not defined by Unreal at all. And if you want to think about this, it's as I'm getting a little bit better at understanding how the relationship between the audio engine and the game engine work. Basically, what's happening here is you have your video game playing, and it's literally talking to this audio. It's essentially like a media player in the background, and so and all it's doing is it's just telling it what to play when, and all of the audio is actually being controlled through this right here. Now the positioning is going to feed it the position of the object right here. So if I change positioning around right now, it'll tell it where to play back. So it feels like it's actually matching what we see on screen. But the two, it's weird because the two are completely, the game and the game audio engine are completely separate from one another. So in this case right now, we have our 3D spatialization set to none. So if we turn this on to position, now we have our position orientation. And it could potentially just work, but the problem is we don't have any attenuation. So in other words, it doesn't have any volume difference depending on where I'm at. So we want this thing to get quieter as we move further away from it too. So we need to create an attenuation set. Well, I'll use it. You could create a new, we want to create a new attenuation share set. So I'll call this one new. We'll call it just general attenuation. So the reason I would call that general attenuation, meaning that for most things in our scene, we want them to behave the same way, so that the further I get from it, the rate of fall off for that sound is going to be consistent between all things, because that's how the physics of your world that you set up. So if I have some sort of object that's super far away that I want it to have the same, or I guess a bunch of different objects, I want them to all have the same attenuation rate so that they all behave as if they're in the same scene together. So that would make sense. So we need to edit this thing out a little bit right now. And I like just looking at that, when we were looking at the position of that, we saw that it was massive. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to start this thing up at 1,000, just because I might need to do that, just to start with this thing at being, it seems like things are pretty big. So we might have to like go back and forth and do this by trial and error, because I don't know what the scale is. On most games, and like most normal first person shooter type things, one game unit should be 1 meter. So in other words, this is 100 meters right here. Well, now it's 100. Now as soon as I hit enter, it's 1,000 meters. So that's a whole kilometer away. That's what normally would be, well, like that's kind of normal stuff. But maybe if you're playing an ant game, or if you're a spaceship game or something like that. So if you're an ant game, you'd be playing where you're super small. You don't want your scale to be 1 meter, because then everything's just too big. But then on the flip side, if you want to play in space, 1 meter is too small. So you would actually change the scale of your game units. And we were looking at it over here. Let's just take a look at like the position of this thing. So this position's at -20 and -50, 90. So it's really big. So I think 1,000 would probably be the right ticket for right now. So let's try and see if that works as a starting point. And I like a curve like that. I think that sounds a little more natural. We can actually go a little bit further. Yeah, I like that one. I don't want to do cone attenuation, and I could do things like high pass filtering, but let's just get this thing going for now and see if it works. So save, and then I need to do some more experimenting, but I don't know if I need. One of the things I like when we work with Fmod, I think that was F7 was generate sound banks. You didn't need to actually go to the sound banks tab. You could just hit F7 and it would generate the sound banks for you. That was pretty cool. Here you have to go to your sound banks tab, generate all, and actually I'm just going to generate. I'm not going to do main. Let's do Windows and English. Generate selected. Cool. And let's go over here. And let's just, I don't know if I need to generate sound data or not. To me, I thought this is the same thing, but whatever. Let's try it out. See if it works. There it is. Wow, even 1,000 was too small. I guess that's okay. I think let's bump this up to 2,000. It's giant.
So if you bump it up to 2,000, then it's gonna be even quieter, right?
No, it's gonna. That means that I like where it used to kick in was right here, and now it's going to be farther away. I can hear it, so I'll be able to hear it at 2,000 units away instead of 1,000 units. That's
well, isn't that saying at oh, I see. Okay, yeah, that
makes sense. Yeah. And I'm going to try not generating sound data, but I will generate it from here and see if it works. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Now it sounds like there's like that cube has some sort of power, or there's something going on with it. So that's the quick and dirty way of setting up and triggering events inside of your system. Now, one of the other things, let's address that gun sound. So what I was saying before is that we have our audio engine being played from WWISE, but it doesn't destroy the audio engine. So we actually have two audio engines running at the same time. We have the internal audio engine running from Unreal, and then we also have the WWISE audio engine from WWISE. So what we want to do is I want to replace any of the sounds that we have going on so we can control everything from WWISE, and in particular that shotgun, that gun sound, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, that gun sound is kind of hokey, right? It's like, it sounds pretty huge for these little balls that you're lobbing out of your gun. But let's change the sound of the gun with using WWISE. So to do that, we got to go, where's my character? So if I look at my first person character, or over my list right here, I can see first person character. And if I want to edit the blueprint on this one, let's take a look at what's going with the script that they're using for the blueprint for the player here. And this is kind of cool because we can see how they did a really good job setting this up. So this is for VR stuff. So you can actually use this. Basically, it says if VR is set up, you attach the camera to be on the head position, so they're tracking the VR stuff. This is the stick input. So if you're using like a joystick controller or something like that, and here's our jump and our spawn projectile. So this is our gun thing. So basically, input action fire. So if pressed, then I want you to play. Then it goes through and it plays this animation sequence right here, and controls a lot of the physics that's going on here. I don't know this stuff at all. So, but if most controllers enable use spawn projectile from VR marker. Okay, so I haven't played this in VR, so I haven't tried this one yet. But what we care about is this thing right here, spawn projectile, and then I would say play firing sound. So this is what we want to hit here. Play sound at location. And the location is get actor location, target sound. Okay, so that's what we needed. That's what I was missing before there for the sound, to get the sound to come from that object before. But so you get actor location. So the actor location, so they what we call game objects in Unity, they call them actors in Unreal. And so target itself, and we would say this is, you could say this is the location for this. But instead of this, we want to get rid of this. So let's get rid of this whole business here. I don't care about this. And we want to use the WWISE stuff. So we want to play the sound. We want to trigger a gun sound every time we want to change this trigger over here to be for the gun sounds that we control over in WWISE. So let's play event or post event. And we don't have an event yet set it, so I'll just have to do something. We'll just set up ambience. That doesn't make any sense. But same thing we did before. We want this to be the self. And so we want to post this event. We need to create a real event. So I'm gonna go ahead and compile this, but let's go over to WWISE and make a game like a laser sound or whatever, some sort of sound. So let's bring in files. See what we've got in here. Rise swell. I don't know. I don't know this one, but I'm just gonna go through this. See if we can find some sort of sci-fi or gun sounds or something along those lines. Metal sounds, subway, sci-fi. Space horn? No, those aren't right. Urban coyotes. Ooh, squeaks, screeds, and squeals. That would have been cool one to use. Spaceship interiors. That'd be pretty cool too. Toyota Chaser. Let's see. Guns, bolts, and explosions. Let's see. Nope, that's not what we need. There we go. Sci-fi weapons. Sure. I'd like, can we have a blaster laser boom? You know, you should do this in your DAW for real and do it right. But let's import that. Oops, where did I put that? Where did that end up? Oh, it ended up here. So I was selected on the drone when I did that. Cool. Call it blaster. Wish I should call it blaster fire, but that's okay. Let's hear what this sounds like. Sure. Doesn't make any sense. It's not right, but whatever. Good enough for, actually, it's a little long. Let's shorten that up a little bit. Whatever. Good enough for now. Save it. Let's go over here and change that out for this one. Need to generate the sound data, but it should show up already. Blaster here. Save this one, compile it, close it out. So basically, just to reiterate what's happening here is that every time they pull the trigger, they want to, every time a little ball comes out of the cannon, it's going to make this sound. So this is spawning the first person projectile. That's basically every time that happens, I want you to play this sound. Let's go generate sound data. Just to double check. And let's see if it works. Cool. So I'm still a little bit fuzzy on why we don't need to add like yeah, so it shows up here as my blaster right there, shows up just in my WWISE audio events, which is really useful. That it just connects those two together. But I'm still fuzzy on this whole sound banks generation. Like it seemed to work without doing the sound banks, and I don't apparently need to in here like on my ambience. Like I assigned it here to the main, but you don't need to. Apparently, you don't need to assign it to the main. So I'm let's drone. Let's try. So I with blaster, I didn't assign it to the master or main. It just worked. So it's strange to me why that's working. I don't understand that. And I did look around for it, but there's very little like documentation on this specifically on how this process works. And the resources I've been able to find for this have been not clear as to why this thing works. So I'm a little bit, because like, you know, in the name of what we were talking about with all of our other stuff, like resource management is clutch. Like you need to be able to like manage your resources, and it seems to this one it's just like all willy-nilly. So I'm a little bit fuzzy on how that's going.
What does that initialize bank thing do? What's
So I've not been able to tell. So if you double click on it, it doesn't like do anything. So it's AK asset platform data. So like when I was first learning how to do this, it was like I was running into all sorts of snags on getting the two to talk to each other. And because I thought you had to build out all your own banks, and I was deleting this one because I thought it didn't need to exist in there. And it like, if you delete that, it causes all sorts of problems. But yeah, so it like, you're right. It's like this is some sort of initializer. So what it does is it's initializing the sound banks, but it's still not specific to any sound bank. It just says do it. So I'm a little bit fuzzy on some of that stuff. So there's also like, so when we right click here, we have a bunch of things we can add here. So we can add our like auxiliary bus, we can events, our RTPCs, auto connect texture. I don't know what that one is actually. And then I really don't know what the trigger is either. I think that's going to be more for some of the audio, for the music stuff. So
footstep stuff?
what's up?
Could that be for like footsteps?
Yeah, but for footsteps, it would still be a post event. So it would still be post, like just to be an audio kinetic event. But we don't need to actually make these things because the WWISE API does that for us. So let's try this out. Let's go through and create a separate bus in here under our, let's create an aux bus off of this one. We'll call it reverb. And on this reverb, let's just add some reverb actually. And this is where things like kind of bums me out, because WWISE makes you buy the convolution reverb, where it's free if you work with the Unreal Engine. And so I don't know if there's a way you can mix and match between the two of them, because the fact that they make you pay for the convolution reverb, that's so early 2000s. Convolution is free for everybody. Like, I don't know why. Like, it used to be this like revolutionary thing a few years back, and now it's like, and they made you pay for it, like with plugins. But now everyone has convolution for free, and so I don't know why they make you pay for it. But let's just do room reverb, cathedral, holy. Yep, cool. Save that. I don't think I need to generate it. We'll just generate it from over here. And we should see that we have a reverb bus there. So under my content browser, now it did a new window, or new folder showed up, master maker hierarchy, and we should see our bus, and we have a reverb. So it creates our reverb. So we don't need to actually go through and create any of this stuff. Typically, it does this for us by using the API, which is awesome. Because the old way you did this before this Wise API thing, you had to go and basically recreate your entire Wise session inside of Unreal. And so if something changes over in Wise, fundamentally, you had to go change it in Unreal and back and forth. And that's not a good way to work. So this API, it basically meshes the two so that what you're seeing right here is what you're seeing inside of Wise. But there's still some fundamental things that are missing for me, and they're not described because this is a relatively new. This Wise API thing is pretty new. It's within probably 4 months or so that they've implemented this, and so there's not a lot of like demonstrations or data or stuff on this. I hunted around and looked at some of the forums and tutorials, but I've not been able to find, also documentation, but I've not really been able to find a whole lot on this. So I'm still a little fuzzy on that. So, but the cool thing is though, even with just this limited knowledge right now, I think, there's a lot of information to be learned with this like blueprint stuff. So like if I wanted to create, say, a trigger zone for like a terrain, so if I want, so unlike Unity, where if I want to drag something in and turn it into, basically the way it works, if you're doing a trigger collider in Unity, you'll create a cube or sphere or something like that, and you turn off the mesh and you hit is trigger. Well, you don't do that inside of in here. What you'll do that here is you do is like a box trigger. So if I drag in a box trigger, and I want this to be able to be to trigger the different terrain, maybe I have some. Let's go XY. If I wanted this to be like water, maybe this is like a pond that I step in here, and it says I want the footsteps to switch to water. So I got my box, my collider here, and we'll say this is called like change this to like water trigger. So it's a trigger box, and then on this trigger box, what I'm going to do is add a blueprint script in here, and new subclass for this one. Oops, not play. Let's go to event graph, and there's like on collision, I think it's like say collision. Let's see if I can find. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for right here. Is we're looking for basically the trigger state or the collision state. Basically, if it collides with it, maybe it's collider. I don't know, but this is the wrong way to do this. But basically, I don't know what the right event. Oh, maybe it's like let's just try this. Events. Is there a collider event in here? Oh, this is big. Let's see, add. Oh, there it is. Add collision. Add. I just saw it go by. Damn it. See if I can find it in there. Thought I saw it. Robot. All right. Anyway. What I'm going to do is just throw it up here. Basically, this isn't the right way to do it, but on my audio kinetic, my actor, they have a post switch or set switch, and I don't have my switches set up over in Wise setup yet, so it's probably going to give me an error. Well, actually, it didn't give me an error, but basically, what I want you to do is that as soon as I go into that, I want you to switch to the water state, and so then if we have footsteps playing, like if we set up a terrain setup in Wise over here, it would set the switch state over here. And I've been able to get it so I can see the switch states, but I still haven't quite figured out the actual trigger mechanism for that. So that basically when you go into this, it will trigger something. So I'm still figuring out the collision detection kind of thing. That's still a little fuzzy for me, but it's I'm getting closer with it. So, but I don't know. I think this blueprint stuff is really cool. I need to wrap my head around it and get better at it. There's a whole course on it in Unreal that I want to spend a lot of time on learning how to do that. It's essentially the equivalent of scripting, but the cool thing is you can't screw it up. Like when you're working with C# scripts, it's so easy, especially if you're not a strong coder. It's so easy to screw up your code and know exactly what you're looking for. Whereas this one, you can kind of right click and hunt around for the stuff that you're looking for. So it gives it a little bit better. I don't know. I think like there's a lot less chance of screwing up your syntax, so to speak. You can't write, you can still write bad code, but you at least won't have the mistakes that you'll make with the really difficult mistakes that you have to make when you're doing line by line coding. So that's what I think is just really cool about Unreal, is that it's you could be up and running pretty quick, and they give you massive amounts of starter content. So like, I don't know, you can just like, even what I was doing right there, I can go build a game in like under a minute, so that you basically can just go, okay, I want to experiment with this stuff. You don't have to go in and create this. Just it takes me about 10 times as long to do that inside of Unity, when I would just do some experimenting and punching bag and learning kind of stuff. So and it just looks cool too. So you can, Unreal is definitely geared towards a lot of first person stuff, but you can also use it for puzzles. You can use it for other stuff as well. And so yeah, I'd say like, I want to spend a lot more time with Unreal. I think it's gonna be pretty neat. So that's gonna be kind of my jam. But for as far as this class goes, what I want you to do, like all your job is to do is just, I want you to be exposed to Unreal so you can say that you've seen it, and so that if you want to go further with it, you can. You're not going to have any assignment due on the stuff that we did today. So at this point, the last assignment that we have, the last main assignment you have due is going to be the one, just watch the Unreal videos and do the little quiz, and you're done. Starting after break, we're working on our final projects. So your final project, like, and I have I'll make it public, but I don't have the write up for it completed all the way through yet. And it's like looking in a mirror. I can see myself, like all the weird things. What you're going to be doing for your final project is you're going to be building basically a level in probably Unity. You can use Unreal if you want to, but you can build it inside of Unity, and you're going to create basically a scene that has some sound effects in it that you either create or design or trigger. And it can be first person, third person, however you want to do it. Probably first person makes most sense. And it's just like, and I'm going to give you some assets. So like, it's basically like a museum asset, of where you basically have a room where you basically can walk around and look at different stuff that makes sounds. And what we're going to do is we're going to deploy that to the web using WebGL. And that is going to be your portfolio piece. So that basically, if somebody ever asks you, like, you can be like, oh yeah, I've done game audio. They're going to be like, wait, really? Can I see any stuff you've done? And you're like, yeah, just go to the web, and you can show them how to you could actually show your portfolio work on the web. You can either do this on your own website if you want to, but Unity has a built-in like portfolio manager thing, a profile. It's kind of like your game dev LinkedIn for Unity. And so you basically has a Unity thing. So you can send them to your Unity profile, and you can see all the stuff that you've posted. So that's what we're going to do for our final project. So what I want you to do is start thinking about like some sound design elements. What kind of things that you would like to add in there? You could either show your music composition, you could throw some sound design elements in there, but basically it's just showing that you know how to make a game with sounds. That's what we're really trying to show off here. When I was at AES quite a few years ago, I remember sitting in a talk, and the guy was like, what, like, you have to come up with a reel. Like, that's when you're working with this, nobody cares about your CV or your resume. They want to see, feel, touch stuff that you've done. And so this guy was talking about, he was a game audio guy, and he was like, yeah, of all the studios I work for, like, they all want to see your work, and they're highly, highly impressed by having your resume or your reel as an actual game that you can play online. So, and the cool thing is Unity makes it really dead simple how to upload your games and do it on GL. So that's what we're going to be working on when we get back from break. And then for finals week is we're just going to look at each other's games, and that's the end of the semester. Yay. All right, my friends, it's 10:45. We're going to get out of here. Have a safe Thanksgiving. I'm around if you have any questions. I'm going to the mountains for the weekend, but I'm just here working. So if you want to chat for anything, anytime, let me know. And yeah, have a happy Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys on the flip side. I'll stick around if anybody has any questions.